Morning, everybody. Today's lesson is going to be about AM and PM when you're telling time. All right, so Lauren's family is going hiking tomorrow at 7 o'clock. How should Lauren write the time to show that they are going in the morning and not the evening? So over here it says to circle the helpful information that tells about the hiking time. Well, our time is 7, so that's helpful. And it tells us that we're going in the morning, so that is also helpful. Okay, and then what do you need to find? So we need to find how Lauren should write the time. So how Lauren should write the time. Okay? And then it says you can use a number line to show the sequence of or order of events, and it can help you understand the number of hours in a day. So you're going to think the distance from one mark to the next mark represents 1 hour. So like these little marks are representing 1 hour. Okay, so it says think the distance from one mark to the next mark represents 1 hour. So we want to count to 7 a.m. or 7 in the morning. I'm sorry, 7 in the morning, which this one says 12, and then we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this right here marks 7. So go ahead and make a circle or a big dot on that line, and that's representing 7 o'clock, okay? Time after midnight. So midnight is 12 o'clock at night, and so the times after midnight and before noon are written with AM. So 7 in the morning is written as 7 capital A period capital M period. Okay, so Lauren should write the hiking time as 7 a.m. All right, and then after midnight and before noon, it just means that from this 12 all the way until you get all the way back around until noon or around lunchtime, that's all going to be AM. Once 12:01 happens around lunch, then it switches, okay, to PM. So now it says find the mark that shows 7 a.m. on the number line above and circle the mark. Well, I kind of did that ahead, so we already did that. All right, tell time afternoon. Callie's family is going for a canoe ride at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So how should Callie write the time? So it says noon is 12 o'clock in the daytime. The times after noon and before midnight are written with PM. So 3 o'clock in the afternoon is written as 3 capital M or capital P period capital M period. So Callie should write the time as 3 p.m. All right. Sharon Show. Name 2 things you do in the AM hours and name 2 things you do in the PM hours. So, like, for example, in the AM, let's just label this AM here, dash, and let's label this PM here, and we're just going to list. Okay, so, like, for me, in the AM, I wake up and eat breakfast. That's 2 things. I wake up and I eat breakfast. You can write 2 of your own things, or you can write the same things that I wrote. Okay, and then the PM, you guys might play outside and eat dinner. Okay, so play outside and eat dinner in the PM. Again, you can pick 2 different things if you want, but it's just got to be in the afternoon. Okay? All right, now it says write the time for the activity and use AM or PM. So they want to know if you're going to ride a bicycle, are you going to do that in the AM or the PM based on the time on this clock? So first we have to find the time. So our shorthand is our hour, and it's between the 4 and the 5, so we know it's going to be 4 o'clock. And then it sits, the longhand sits right at the 4, so we can just count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20. So it's going to be 4:20. So we're going to ride our bike at 4:20 a.m. in the early morning, or we're going to ride our bike at 4:20 p.m. in the afternoon. We're going to ride our bike at 4:20 p.m. most likely, okay? And then making a sandwich, okay? Right here, our shorthand is between the 11 and the 12, so that means it's 11. And then our longhand, if we count by 5s here, it goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. It's 11:34. So are you going to make a sandwich at 11:34 a.m., which is right before noon, Or are you gonna make a sandwich at 11:45 p.m. when you're probably in bed? You're gonna make that sandwich at 11:45 a.m., right? And then what about getting ready for bed? Are you doing that at 8:12 in the morning or 8:12 in the evening? You're doing that at 8:12 in the evening, so we need to say p.m. So 8:12 p.m. All right. And then our last question for this page says, this morning Sam woke up at the time shown on this clock. Write the time using AM or PM. So over here, our clock says that it's right really close to the 8. It's tricky. But our number, our minute hand here isn't all the way to the 12. So it's tricky. This is only 7 o'clock still. But when we count, it's just so close to 8 that that's why that looks like that. But it goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, and then really carefully, 51, 52, and 53. So it's going to be 7:53, and it's when they woke up in the morning. So since it's in the morning, it is a.m., so 7:53 a.m. All right, we're to the on your own section. So I want you to do number 6, 7, and 8, and let's go ahead and do 9 and 10 as well on your own, and make sure you read the directions, and then I'll walk you through them here in just a minute. All right? Okay, you should have the same answers that I do. This one is eating breakfast at 7:17 a.m. because that happens in the morning. Have science class at 1:20 is the time on the clock, and that would be in the afternoon, so that's p.m. Playing softball. This clock says it's 4:08. That also happens in the afternoon, so p.m. Now this one says write the time, use a.m. or p.m., and it says 9:15. So a quarter is 15. So if you didn't know that, that's 15. So it's after 9, so it's 9:15, and it's in the morning, so that's a.m. And then 6 minutes after 7 in the morning would be 7:06, and that's also in the morning, so it's a.m. Okay. Now, number 11 says, Mark is taking a trip on an airplane. His flight leaves at 24 minutes before 9 in the morning. Using AM or PM, at what time does Mark's flight leave? So his flight leaves at 24 minutes before 9. So before 9 means it's 8 o'clock. And if you take 60 and you minus 24 because there's 60 minutes in an hour, you would get 10 minus 4 is 6, and 5 minus 2 is 3. So you would get 36. So then it's before 9, so it's 8:36. And it says that he's taking that trip in the morning. So it's going to be a.m. So 8:36 a.m. Then it says Jenny's class ate lunch at 18 minutes before noon. Each day, using AM or PM, write the time that Jenny's class ate lunch. So 18 minutes before noon would mean it has to come before noon, which is 12. So before 12 is 11. And then it's 18 minutes before 11. So again, you have to think 60 minus 18. And if you subtract like this, you had to borrow. And 10 minus 8 is 2, and 5 minus 1 is 4, so it's 42. So it would be 11:42, and we're eating that each day just right before noon, so that still is in the morning. So 11:42 a.m. Number 13, daylight savings time begins on the second Sunday in March at 2 o'clock in the morning. Write the time. So our time, using AM or PM, but they already give us our time as 2 o'clock, and so since it's in the morning, that is AM. And then number 14 says Jane and her dad are using their new telescope to look at the stars. They start looking at the stars at 23 minutes after 9 and stopped looking at the stars 10 minutes after 10. Using AM or PM, at what time did they start and stop looking at the stars? So we're going to go back up here. They start looking at the stars at 23 minutes after 9. So that's 9:23. And they're looking at stars, so that's the evening. So that's going to be PM. And then they stopped looking at the stars at 10 minutes after 10. So that's going to be at 10:10 p.m. All right, number 15 says, from midnight to noon each day, how many times does the minute hand on a clock pass 6? So, and then it says, explain how you found your answer. So if you think of a clock, and from midnight to noon, that's 12 hours, okay? And so since that minute hand goes around the clock one whole time in 1 hour, and that's 12 hours that pass, that means that it passes that 6 12 times, okay? So we're gonna say 12 times first, because that's how many times it passes the 6, is 12 times. And then we're just gonna say 12 hours pass, 12 hours pass from midnight to noon. I'm trying to hold the paper today. It's kind of hard. From midnight to noon. So the minute hand, so 12 hours pass from midnight to noon. So the minute hand will go around the clock 12 times and pass the 6 each time. So let's read that again. 12 times, and it says 12 hours pass from midnight to noon, so the minute hand will go around the clock 12 times and pass the 6 each time. Unlock the problem says Leah and her father arrived at the scenic overlook 15 minutes before noon and left 12 minutes after noon. Using AM or PM, write the time when Leah and her father arrived at the scene. Write the time when Leah and her father arrived at the scene, the scenic overlook, and the time when they left. So what do you need to find? Well, you need to find the time. There's a couple things we need to find. First, we need to find the time. We need to know whether it's AM or PM. And basically when they arrived and when they left. All right, and what do you need to do first? We need to find the time they arrived. Find the time they arrived. Find the time that they arrived. All right, so show the steps you used to solve the problem. So we're gonna I'm gonna label this arrived because we wanna find the time that they arrived first. So it says, Leah and her father arrived at the scenic overlook 15 minutes before noon. So before noon is 11, and 15 minutes before, and you can figure it out again by subtracting, is 60 minus 15. And if you borrow, it looks like this, and then 10 minus 5 is 5, and 5 minus 1 is 4. So our time is 11:45. And then and it says before noon, so it's right before noon, so that means this needs to be AM, okay? And then when they left, it says that they left 12 minutes after noon. So afternoon means it's 12, and it was 12 minutes after, and now that it's afternoon, we're at PM. So our answers here should be they arrived at 11:45 a.m. and then they left at 12:12 p.m. And number 17 says, the Davis family spent the day at the lake, and write the letter for each activity next to the time they did it. So they went swimming soon after lunch. So after lunch, let's actually go through all of these. So they went swimming soon after lunch. They ate breakfast at home. They watched the sunset over the lake. They got to the lake cabin in the morning, and they had sandwiches for lunch. So if we come over here to our times, we're at 9:50 a.m., 7 p.m., 12:15 p.m., 1:30 p.m., and 7 a.m. So when you look at all of these, right away, I just want to start with the beginning of our day. So the earliest time over here is 7 a.m. So what do we do first? We ate breakfast at home. So we're going to put an ate breakfast at home is a B. So we're just going to put B next to 7 a.m. All right. Then it's our next time on the line here is 9:50 a.m. So at 9:50 a.m., if you look through all of these things, the next thing that would make sense, it also happens in the morning. I see the word morning, is got to the lake cabin in the morning, and that's letter D. So we need to put letter D here. Then we're to 12:15 p.m. So 12:15 p.m. is around lunchtime. So when we come over here, it did say something about they went swimming soon after lunch, but down here it said they had sandwiches for lunch. So having sandwiches for lunch comes first. So that's going to go in 12:15. And then going swimming right after lunch would be our next time at 1:30, and that was letter A. And then that leaves watch the sunset over the lake for 7 p.m. All right, so it should go D, C, E, A, B.